Distress migrants in India. I am Father Martin Puducherry, a Jesuit belonging to Calcutta province in India. I head the labor migration unit of Indian Social Institute Bangalore since 2015. I am also coordinator of Global Ignatian Advocacy Network, GIAN, on migration, the Jesuit Conference of South Asia. I did my MSW from the University of Mumbai, and I submitted PhD thesis on the topic exclusion and vulnerability of inbound migrant workers in Kerala at CMR University, Bangalore. Since 2011, I have been involved in the issues of migrants, especially on their rights, and there are several publications on the related themes. I cordially invite you all to this session on distressed migrants in India. These are the 4 universal apostolic preferences of the Society of Jesus. 1, to show the way to God through spiritual exercises. 2, to walk with the poor, the outcast of the world, those whose dignity has been violated in a mission of reconciliation and justice. 3, to collaborate in the care of the common home. And finally, to accompany the young in the creation of a hope-filled future. These 4 universal apostolic preferences have been phrased this way: showing the way to God, walking with the excluded, journeying with the youth, caring for our common home. Walking with the excluded. Today's presentation and our discussion comes under this theme. These are the 4 areas I will be dealing with in this presentation. 1, distress migration in India, causes and recent surge. Who are the distress migrants in India? Major types of distress migrants. And finally, some of the challenges of distress migrants facing in India. This is one of the visuals of distress migration in India. The first area, distress migration in India, causes and recent surge. The rural distress is the major reason for migration in India. The Economic Survey of India 2016-17 found labor migration increasing at an accelerating rate and estimated annual interstate labor migration in India to be about 9 million. In India, distress migration is primarily poverty-induced. Distress migration on a massive scale is one of the most striking findings of the census 2011 done in India, according to PSINAR. The important national laws and policies for internal migrant workers are the following. Interstate Migrant Workmen Regulation of Employment and Conditions of Service Act 1979. This is an exclusive law dealing with migrant workers. Building and Other Construction Workers Regulation of Employment and Conditions of Service Act 1996. Unorganized Workers Social Security Act 2008. These are some of the important laws pertaining to migrant workers in India. In India, migration has been both a survival mechanism as well as a refuge from turmoil for millions of people. The collapse of the millions of livelihood in agricultural and its related occupations have accelerated the distress migration. Further, the introduction of the new economic policy in 1992 through liberalization privatization and globalization, we are summarized as LPG, has accelerated this migration in India, especially the distress migration. The developmental plans centered especially on the mega cities and negated the countryside was leading to a large-scale distress migration in India. The forced failure of agricultural activities and indebtedness due to loans taken and mass farmer suicides have resulted in marginal peasants abandoning agriculture, landless workers being unemployed, and exodus of these groups to other parts of the country for survival. You might have known recently about Father Stan Swami, who died in the judicial custody in India. He had written on Adivasi migration. Adivasi is the term used for indigenous people or tribal people in India. On his request, I had organized 2 national seminars in Bagaicha, where he had been working for the last 20 years. That is situated in Ranchi in Jharkhand state. In the seminar, he presented a paper which he had published earlier titled Migration in Wales, Adivasis Forced Out of Homelands. Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Odisha, and Bengal have all experienced these waves of migration as Adivasis desperately seek a way out of economic poverty and insecurity. And he gives 3 waves of migration, especially of these Adivasis. The first wave is the migration of young Adivasi women to metropolitan cities in India like Mumbai, Delhi, Chennai, Calcutta. The second wave is a seasonal migration of entire families to northern states. That is, the entire families move based on agricultural needs or seasonal jobs. The third wave is the recent exodus of Adivasi youth to southern states as casual or contract labor, mostly to southern Indian states like Tamil Nadu, Kerala, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, and Karnataka. Now he asked this question: how do we explain this relatively new phenomenon of thousands of Adivasis from central Indian states coming to South India? And Father Stan Swami gives these 2 reasons. One, deepening poverty, especially among these indigenous groups or indigenous communities. Second, increasing state repression due to exploitation of natural resources in those areas. There are no legal restrictions to interstate migration in India. The Constitution of India states all citizens shall have the right to move freely throughout the territory of India, to reside and settle in any part of the territory of India. Thus, interstate migrants are not required to be registered in India, either at the place of origin or at the place of destination. This is a fact we need to keep in mind when we discussing about interstate migration in India. According to estimates, internal migrants in India are above 450 million and interstate migrants about 60 million. The second area we are discussing today is who are the distressed labor migrants in India? Of course, this is a question. The answer is landless farmers, agricultural laborers, and marginal farmers. Landless farmers, agricultural laborers, and marginal farmers who lost their livelihood on account of global agricultural practices form bulk of these distressed migrants. both intrastate as well as interstate migrants. The majority of the distressed migrants in India are from the socially and economically deprived strata of the rural society, belonging either to the scheduled caste or scheduled tribes or to the other backward classes with very little or virtually no control over the means of production. All the three major sectors of the Indian economy, namely agriculture, industry, and services, employ a large number of these migrant workers. The building and construction industry, along with bricklings, stone quarries, and garment industry, employ the majority of the interstate migrants. Services provided by migrants include domestic services, security services, working in small hotels, and driving auto rickshaws and taxis. You can make out from this visual how the distress migration is taking place from the rural areas of India. The third area is major types of distress migrants: intrastate, interstate, rural to urban, seasonal, and circular migration. Intrastate and interstate migration: rural to rural, rural to urban, rural to urban to urban, and urban to rural migration. There is also seasonal and circular migration. With agriculture heavily dependent on seasonal factors, seasonal cycle also shapes the rural-urban migration stream. The rate of temporary and seasonal migration is 7 times larger when permanent and semi-permanent migration is considered. An estimated 14 million persons are circulating annually in India. The major source states of migrants are Uttar Pradesh, Bihar, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, Jharkhand, Odisha, West Bengal, Assam, and Chhattisgarh. Now, the major destination states of migrants are Maharashtra, where Bombay is situated, Delhi, the capital city of India, Punjab, Gujarat, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Goa, and Kerala. The fourth area we are discussing part of this distress migration is challenges of distress migrants in India. What are some of the major challenges faced by the migrants, especially at the destinations? Language barriers, exclusion, xenophobia, health hazards, accidents and deaths, gender discrimination and violence, exploitation, discrimination and wage theft, and human trafficking and bonded labor. These are some of the major issues faced by the distress migrants. Distress labor migrants are forced into alien languages. You know, there are a lot of languages in India. Each state has got its own official language, plus there are a lot of languages and dialects. Cultures, races, climate, food habits, work cultures, etc. These are some of the issues when these migrants, when they migrate one part of India to the other, though it is the same country. These adverse factors at the destinations have resulted in their alienation, exclusion, and various vulnerabilities despite of the same nationality. The violation of rights of migrants include right to livelihood, residence, food, health, education, social security, equal wages, proper hours of work, and freedom from bondage. Migrants are mostly remain without identity and so are unable to claim state resources. They have no social security, no compensation in case of accidental injuries and deaths, and no access to safe drinking water and public health care. Now we shall discuss some of these issues in some more detail. One, language barriers. Language barrier is a major challenge for the interstate migrant workers in India, for their communication with the local population, to understand the instructions of the employers, for traveling, and for accessing government schemes and benefits available to them. 2, exclusion. In India, rights of labor migrants are often denied on the political defense of the sons of the soil theory. They are also denied access to public distribution system, public health, education, and other basic amenities such as water and sanitation. 3, xenophobia. Indian migrants are soft targets for the police, administration, and the locals in India. Profiling of these workers by police clearly demonstrates xenophobia based on suspicion and prejudice. They are also targeted by the locals at the destinations for the crimes of petty theft and on the ground of mere suspicion. 4, health hazards, accidents, and deaths. Migrant workers are vulnerable to health hazards and infectious diseases as their working and living conditions are deplorable. Their poor living and working conditions, increased exposure to infectious diseases, and lack of access to public health care deter their health. This is one of the photos I took when we had a program with cycle rickshaw pullers in Delhi. 5, gender discrimination and violence. According to Sisters for Change 2016, 80% of the Bangalore's garment factory workers are women, and these women undergo high levels of sexual harassment and violence at the workplace. 6, exploitation, discrimination, and wage theft. These migrant workers are usually in the 3D jobs, what we call 3D jobs: dirty, dangerous, and degrading. Very often, migrants are forced to work under inhuman conditions. Wage theft is a common issue among the migrants. That is, the migrants work, or their full salary is not paid, or wages are not paid. Sometimes they worked for 20 days, 10 days wages paid, the rest they are not paid. They go after the contractor again and again. Sometimes they get, very often they do not get. 7, human trafficking and bonded labor. Migrants are susceptible to human trafficking and bonded labor in India. The intermediaries often exploit their helplessness by giving certain advance payment and force these migrants and their families into a kind of bondage, or they become victims of human trafficking. Goyal, in his article, classified vulnerabilities of interstate migrants in India into 5 categories: social, economic, physical, political, and financial. Migrant workers face work-based exploitation and are denied access to public resources at their destinations. Most of the laws and regulations often exclude these migrants, especially at the destinations. Migrant workers are treated with much suspicion and mistrust on account of differences in language and culture. They too face xenophobia, harassment, and various other kinds of exclusion and vulnerability. Migrants are more susceptible to mental health problems such as depression, anxiety, and stress. Various studies have revealed these findings, especially these areas: psychosocial problems, faced by the migrants, especially at the destinations. According to Maheshwari, in her article in 2018, the migration policy in India is not addressing the rights and vulnerabilities of low-skilled migrant workers. Very often, low-skilled migrant workers, these issues, especially the rights and vulnerabilities, are not become part of the migration policy in India. This is one of the photos I took when we had a session with the migrant workers. Thank you so much.